It's very important to make a good first impression. You only get one chance to do that. This isn't funny.
We still look at our core demographics and say, okay, they're white, cis, hetero males, and we cater almost exclusively to them. And the problem is that we don't just cater to them like, you know, here's something that we think you'll enjoy. We cater to them the way that we cater to like a picky baby. We feed them the same thing that we know that they love, and we keep on feeding it. We're like, here you go, you love it, eat this, eat this, eat this, so that then when they get anything else, they react as a picky baby would, which is be like, oh, no, thank you, I do not want this. And we've actually done this so long that what we're doing is creating an entire nation of picky babies, and they make us scared to deviate from what we actually want to do, just in case these picky babies don't want to play our games.
Man, this is some bullshit! Boo this man!
Yeah, I would say I think of us almost in as like patient zero of this wave of Gay Brigade, in that I think when I think of it as where it started, it was kind of the week that we had announced that we were on both Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man 2, which are two, I think, popular games among the game community and players in general. And immediately, I think the targeting began with this kind of like, we found this secret, sinister website from Sweet Baby Inc. Meanwhile, we're on Twitter like, I've been so excited to let people know that we worked on these two really great games. And the assumption was essentially made that our work on that had not been story or narrative or character related. It had been to make a Black character exist in Alan Wake 2, and I think to put pride flags in Spider-Man 2. And that was kind of like the assumption that we had wokeified the video games. And then that led to, as a company, we worked on over 80 games together. So there was plenty of fodder for people to start going, oh, is this the reason that all of these games are now woke, that they have people of color in them, or queer people, or any marginalized identities at all? Or even sometimes that, you know, they perceive like, oh, this woman's design is not quite as it used to be, and I think it used to be hotter. So there's a lot of stuff that's been put on us, both things that we did work on, things that we didn't, and then we kind of just became shorthand for the wokeification, quote unquote, of gaming.
Put this stuff up to your higher ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
Ashley, how can gamers discern the difference when it comes to consuming mis or disinformation around people and companies when it comes to Game Brigade? How can people discern the two?
So what you want to do is you always want to consider your source. You can get your opinions, you can get your hot takes, you can get your video game reviews from wherever you want, I don't care. But when you are consuming news, like what is happening in the gaming world, consider your source and always consider reliable sources. Your reliable sources are going to be like your big, tentpole legacy media kind of places. I work for The Verge, which is a vertical of Vox Media. There's Polygon, there's IGN, there's GameSpot, there's all these different legacy video game websites that have been around for a very long time that have a vested interest in making sure that the things that they share with you, the things that they write, are up to journalistic standards.
What is this idea of wokeifying gaming really? Like, what is that when people talk about that?
I mean, I think it's part of it's the greater movement, right, towards a lot of like very far right thinking and a lot of very regressive material that's kind of just being pushed out across a lot of different, or at least like in a lot of the audiences of a lot of different industries are currently kind of talking about that. And obviously the political landscape is kind of led to a lot of this. But I think for a lot of people, it really comes down to they see a change that they themselves did not expect. They see a change that they can't fathom that, their beloved companies or their beloved teams would ever make themselves. And so they kind of assume that anyone who comes in who looks like myself or other members of my team are the interlopers, right? Like our job can only be tied to our identity.
We still look at our core demographics and say, okay, they're white, cis, hetero males, and we cater almost exclusively to them. And the problem is that we don't just cater to them like, here's something that we think you'll enjoy. We cater to them the way that we cater to like a picky baby. We feed them the same thing that we know that they love, and we keep on feeding it. We're like, here you go, you love it, eat this, eat this, eat this, so that then when they get anything else, they react as a picky baby would, which is be like, whoa, no, thank you, I do not want this. And we've actually done this so long that what we're doing is creating an entire nation of picky babies, and they make us scared to deviate from what we actually want to do, just in case these picky babies don't want to play our games. Put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
But the things that I think that they can do is to continue on doing the things that they're kind of doing right now with the way that they are making these games. We have so many games from like AAA and indie that are featuring all these kinds of different characters, these different actors. There are people that are doing the work to make sure that their games are as inclusive, both behind the scenes and, on the game itself. And then that trend has just been continuing on and on and on. And we're seeing this increase of these more diverse games from these diverse narratives and these diverse people. And as long as the industry keeps doing that, that's great. That's really all we need. And the one thing I will say is that it would help for these big publishers to just maybe one time go like, we don't really rock with you guys. You don't speak for us. We have done the things that, we wanted to do, and this is what it looks like. And if you don't like that, that's fine. There has to be, we have to divorce ourselves from like offending people who might purchase our games, right? Like they don't really say that because they don't want to really step in the shit, and I don't really blame them for it. But at the same time, we have to get comfortable with telling people, if you don't like this shit, then it's not for you, and you can go elsewhere, and that not everything has to be for you, and that this is a game that we decided that we wanted to make, and we're very happy with it, and we're happy with all the choices that we made. And if that's something that bothers you, you go elsewhere, right?
It's so
letting the
funny that you
people
said
know
that.
that they're not welcome is probably the best thing we can do.
Occasionally, you may get snagged by one of these customer people. Just remember, your job is to frustrate them and make them feel unwanted. A lot of people ask why. Why treat the customer this way? Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
By day, I am the crazed CEO of Sweet Baby Inc., the DEI-obsessed censorship mafia who is currently ruining and wokeifying all of the video games that you've ever played. Thank you. Thank you. It's hard work. If you haven't heard of Sweet Baby Inc., thank you. That's actually how I prefer it. But if you have, it's either because of the over 80 amazing and often award-winning games that we've worked on, or actually one of those, Usual June, was at this very conference. So yeah, you've either heard us from all of these wonderful games, or perhaps you're familiar with the nearly year-long hate campaign that has been waged against us as a team. Unfortunately, today I'm here to talk about that in a talk I'm going to call What Happens When You Get Harassed? A Sweet Baby Story.
My answer was like, well, what happened to sourcing Black writers for something like this? And the answer that was given to me was just like, well, we met some great Black writers, but they didn't have the experience. They had all the talent, but not the experience in games. And so what I said was, well, would it be possible if, since we have the experience in games, could we take on some writers as subcontractors? Because essentially what the client is looking for is authentic and representational work. And what these writers are looking for is experience on a job. And that's something I think we can provide. And so we began, once we had that kind of extra space and those extra contracts, to start sharing I say quote unquote wealth, because it was, we were still working on smaller contracts at the time. But we started bringing in folks who deserved a shot at it and who otherwise the studios might not bring in, but it assumes that the games industry is a meritocracy. It assumes that when you have a marginalized writer coming with a portfolio, what they need is a portfolio review to make sure their portfolio is good. But what happens when we assume instead that it's not a meritocracy? That there is racism, that there is sexism, that there is homophobia, there's transphobia.
Do you think it's racist to hire based on race?
Are you kidding me? We can have diversity and we can have merit.
People should be hired on their merit, not on the color of their skin.
No. Do you have a explanation for that?
No. I mean, I got
the job. So.
So on October 23rd, there was Spider-Man 2, and then on October 27th, there was Alan Wake 2, both big AAA games, and we had worked on narrative and character for both of them with literally years of work on Spider-Man 2, and we would finally get to announce them. We were very excited. In retrospect, we were actually like comically excited because we had a couple thousand followers at the time, mostly game devs, and we were like, okay, it's time to stand up and be proud of our work. Wow. This is gonna be really nice.
Fuck you, you shit!
The Google went bad. I shouldn't have done it because rather than any praise or people going, wow, how did you do it? Or just, hey, a narrative development company, what does that mean? I'm really interested. We were instead found by kind of 4chan and the worst people on Twitter. And looking back, there is a funny element to it where I go like, people were kind of talking like, I've discovered a secret Canadian company. Like, these are the guys who did it. And the discovery that they had made was actually like our public-facing website that we advertise our services on and which you can go to right now if you'd like to collaborate with us or just learn more. It's not hidden. And if it is, it's very bad because it's at sweetbabyinc.com.
Do you know about Sweet Baby Inc.'s website? What is this here? Let me look it up. So they got rid of the other things up on the top here. What about learn more? No? What is this?
Context. Yesterday, the XOXO Indie Game Festival posted a presentation by Sweet Baby Inc. CEO Kim Belair that was held last August. You might remember her from these previous viral moments.
Have a coffee with marketing so that you can absolutely terrify them by telling them, here's what's going to happen if you don't do this.
And of course, people were expecting some type of explanation or backpedaling after these psychotic moments. So what did she do? She quadrupled down. In a couple of weeks, Square Enix was removed from Sweet Baby's clients, and now the site has gone through a complete overhaul.
I mean, it's probably a good idea. I mean, like, if I was one of the companies, I would have asked them to do that myself.
Sweet Baby Inc. has completely redesigned their entire website, scrubbing away any significant amounts of info that used to detail their partnerships and projects with other companies. Gone are the pages that link their name to specific games and developers, now being replaced with a bare-bones overview of what they claim to be offering the game industry.
I mean, if you have a product and the product is like really unpopular and a lot of people don't like it, of course you're going to try to find some way to not be involved with that. My question is why these companies allow themselves to be swayed and swindled by DEI. I think companies do it because they feel like they have to, like prevent them from like getting people mad at them on Twitter. And so if you think about it from that logic, these are people who want to avoid controversy. Well, if avoiding controversy is causing controversy, then they're not really serving their goal, are they? No, they're not. And so that's the issue.
But literally within a few hours of me seeing that first post, we were not only being accused of, forcing a black person into Alan Wake, which one is cool, but we didn't do, and also of putting pride flags into Spider-Man's New York, which, again, so good, love to see them, but we were not responsible for them. But suddenly we were being told that we were, funded by BlackRock and that actually we weren't a narrative development company. We were a DEI company, some kind of vaguely defined like censor, and that we were here to use all of the power we had amassed to force companies to go woke.
My name is Cameron Wild, and I'm a narrative designer and sensitivity reader with a company called Sweet Baby Inc., based out of so-called Montreal. These are some of my co-workers. We specialize in narrative development, which means working with teams on everything from script writing to narrative direction, casting, to cultural consultation. And we do it with a focus on inclusion, but also on creating joy through storytelling. And I even did 2 tours at film school, which is 2 more times than I would recommend anyone attend. But sometimes you only know you've made a mistake until after it's happened, and sometimes you only know once you've made it twice.
You can say that again, pal.
Because the stories we tell each other are way more than entertainment. They're how we create, debate, and preserve our collective values and beliefs. And we can and should make better, more expansive, more representational content. Well, I'm here because we're all game devs of color even, and I think a lot of us, given our shared experiences, have seen how limited in scope and imagination entertainment can be. Obviously, a big part of that is just the reality of working in a creative system that prioritizes capital over telling stories that truly entertain, enrich, and benefit people. But beyond that, there's also a large extent to which many of the people seeking to tell stories in games simply don't know how, which is fine. That's why we at Sweet Baby do what we do. But we hit a wall sometimes when it's not just that creatives don't know how to tell a story well, it's that they want to tell a certain story, and a certain story that often they're unequipped to tell.
Councilman, please, you've got to control yourself.
I'm trying, for God's sake!
Here's a relaxing order, Doctor.